Hi, good morning, good evening to all of you wherever you are. In today's video, we are going to talk about writing the first SQL query. I'm going to teach you how can you write your first query in SQL, what is the format and how can we construct queries in SQL. So let's get started. Writing a query in SQL means that we are going to use data query language. So there are several types of commands in SQL. Data definition language, which is called DDL, data query language, which we are going to talk about, data manipulation language, data control language, and transaction control language. I'm going to discuss these types in some other video. For the time being, let's focus on writing our first query in SQL. Now, since SQL is a language, so it will have its own grammar and syntax. So to be able to write any query in SQL, we need to understand the syntax and the grammar. It is not that complex, just to clarify that upfront. When you are learning a programming language like C, C++, or Java or PHP, those syntaxes and grammar can be overwhelming because there are lots of variations and lots of things. SQL is very limited in that scope. So let's first have a look at a typical query format. It comprises of select, starting with select column names or columns from table or tables where conditions can be put in. Now, this query or these types of queries have to be written to get the data from tables, right? So let's take an example of a table and then understand how this can be constructed. As you can see on your screens, I have taken an example of employees table, which I am going to show from where I have sourced this. This employee table has multiple columns and multiple rows. So as you can see, the columns are fixed in a particular table. Every row will have same number of columns. Some of them will be mandatory, some of them will not. As you can see, some columns are empty. Now, if you have to write a query to get the data from the tables, you can do two things. One, you can get a selected number of columns or all the columns. You can get all the rows or selected number of rows. So to start with, we'll first say, let's choose the columns. So how do we choose the columns? This is how we can do the column selection, by writing them one after the other, separated by a comma. So I have selected two columns, select first name, comma, last name from employees. Now, what if you want all the columns? In that case, we'll be using select star from employees. Star indicates everything, all the columns, no selection. Now, before I proceed further, let me take you and show you how is this executed. So I have used livesql.oracle.com for live demonstration. This is a free online platform for practicing SQL given by Oracle. So if you haven't signed up for this, you need to pause this video, sign up and then come back, where I will then show you both the queries on the SQL worksheet where I will execute them and also give you one more example. So welcome back. Now I have gone to SQL worksheet where I have written the first query, select first name, comma last name from employees. As you can see, I have added HR.employees. The reason being, the Oracle database identifies tables from a logical grouping called as schema. So unless you use the schema and the dot, Oracle will give you an error. As you can see now, if I don't use HR dot, it gives an error saying table does not exist, right? So you have to add the schema. Now I run this query and you can see I get 107 rows but just 2 columns. Now let's run the same query with a star, select star from employees. Now what do you see? Still 107 rows, but now you are seeing all the columns because I have used star instead of column names. Now in both the queries you are getting all the 107 rows. That is because we are not putting any condition on the rows. Now to be able to filter out rows or only get those rows which we are interested in, we need to apply conditions on the columns, and that can be done by starting with where. Let's say, for example, in this case, we want to see only those employees whose salary is more than 5,000. How will I write it? I'll simply say salary or sal, which is the column name, greater than 5,000. Then if I run this query, this is what happens. You get not 107 rows. Now the number of rows are less because only these employees have a salary greater than 5,000. Now, good thing about putting these conditions is that all the columns which use either date or the numbers, you can use any kind of numerical expressions, greater than, equal to, less than, equal to, between. All these commands work here, and that makes it pretty simple to learn SQL. So this was my first video on the SQL tutorial. Here you have learned the first few queries which you can write in SQL for Oracle. In the next video, I'm going to talk about what is a schema in SQL, and then I'll also discuss the joins in the upcoming videos. I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to our channel Techcanvass.